Finding her voice, the morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Riverside Elementary School, casting warm rectangles of light across the polished wooden floors of the main auditorium. The space buzzed with the gentle energy of preparation, teachers arranging chairs in neat rows, custodial staff adjusting the lighting, and the soft murmur of voices as everyone prepared for the annual spring assembly. The air carried the familiar sense of chalk dust, floor polish, and the faint aroma of coffee from the teacher's lounge down the hall. In classroom 3B, Emma Rodriguez knelt beside her desk, carefully organizing a stack of handwritten cards. At 26, Emma had been teaching at Riverside Elementary for 3 years, working 2 additional jobs in the evenings to make ends meet. Her light blue dress was simple but clean, and her blonde hair was braided back in a practical style that kept it out of her face during the long school days. Despite the financial struggles that came with being a teacher in an underfunded district, Emma loved her work with a passion that made every challenge worthwhile. Today was different, though. Today was the day of the annual Student Recognition Assembly, where children would be called to the stage to receive certificates for various achievements throughout the year. Emma had spent weeks preparing her students for this moment, but one child continued to weigh heavily on her mind. In the corner of the classroom, sitting quietly at her small desk, was Emma Wellington. At 6 years old, Emma Wellington was one of the brightest children Emma Rodriguez had ever taught, but she hadn't spoken a single word in school for the entire academic year, not to her classmates, not during lessons, not even to ask for help when she needed to use the bathroom. She communicated only through nods, head shakes, and the occasional written note when absolutely necessary. The other teachers had suggested that Emma Wellington might have selective mutism, a condition where children are capable of speech but remain silent in certain situations. They had recommended testing, evaluations, and specialists, but Emma Rodriguez sensed something different in this particular child, not an inability to speak, but a choice not to. There was a sadness in little Emma's eyes that seemed too deep for someone so young. Emma Rodriguez had tried everything she could think of. She had given the child special responsibilities, paired her with friendly classmates, and even created quiet spaces where Emma Wellington might feel comfortable speaking. Nothing had worked. The little girl remained locked in her silence, participating in class through gestures and written responses, but never uttering a sound. The situation was made more complex by Emma Wellington's family circumstances. Her father, Marcus Wellington, was the CEO of Wellington Educational Technologies, one of the city's most successful companies. He was also a major donor to the school district, which meant that everyone from the principal to the school board was acutely aware of his daughter's situation. The pressure to fix the problem was enormous, but Emma Rodriguez had learned that some children couldn't be rushed or forced into healing. As the morning progressed, Emma Rodriguez watched little Emma Wellington carefully during their regular lessons. The child completed her work diligently, helped other students when they struggled, and participated in group activities through gestures and expressions. She was clearly engaged in learning, but the wall of silence remained firmly in place. During lunch, Emma Rodriguez sat with little Emma Wellington in the quiet corner of the cafeteria where the child preferred to eat alone. She didn't pressure her to talk, but simply provided gentle companionship, sometimes reading aloud from picture books or quietly describing what she saw happening around them. "The assembly is this afternoon," Emma Rodriguez said softly as they sat together. "I know it might feel scary to have all those people watching, but I want you to know that you're going to receive a very special certificate today, little." Emma Wellington looked up with curious eyes but remained silent. "It's for being the kindest, the helper in our classroom," Emma Rodriguez continued. "I've watched you all year, and I've seen how you help other children when they drop their crayons, how you share your snacks when someone forgets their lunch, and how you always make sure everyone is included in games at recess. That kind of caring is very special." The child's expression softened slightly, and she offered a small smile, one of the rare times Emma Rodriguez had seen her face light up all year. That afternoon, the auditorium filled with parents, teachers, and students. Marcus Wellington arrived just before the ceremony began, looking distinguished but tired in his dark business suit. Emma Rodriguez noticed how he sat toward the back, as if trying not to draw attention to himself, though several school board members immediately approached him with greetings and small talk. As the assembly progressed, children were called one by one to receive their certificates. They walked across the stage with varying degrees of confidence, some bouncing with excitement, others shuffling nervously, all of them glowing with pride as they accepted their recognition. Finally, the principal called out Emma Wellington for outstanding kindness and peer support. Little Emma Wellington stood slowly from her seat in the front row where Emma Rodriguez's class was sitting. She walked toward the stage with her characteristic quiet dignity, her small hands clasped in front of her. The auditorium fell into a respectful silence, as everyone in the school community knew about the child's selective mutism. Emma Rodriguez watched from the side of the stage as the principal handed little Emma Wellington her certificate. The child accepted it with a polite nod and turned to walk back to her seat. But then something unexpected happened. Little Emma Wellington stopped walking. She stood in the center of the stage, looking out at the audience of parents, teachers, and students. Her gaze found Emma Rodriguez in the wings, and for a moment, the two Emmas simply looked at each other, teacher and student, both understanding something that didn't need to be spoken there, in a voice that was soft but clear enough to carry across the quiet auditorium. Little Emma Wellington spoke her first words at school. "Thank you, Miss Rodriguez," she said simply. "Thank you for being patient with me." The auditorium erupted in gentle applause, but Emma Rodriguez barely heard it. She was watching Marcus Wellington, who had risen from his seat with tears streaming down his face. She was watching the other children in Emma Wellington's class who were clapping with genuine joy for their classmate. Most of all, she was watching little Emma Wellington herself, who stood on that stage with a small but genuine smile, finally ready to let her voice be heard. After the assembly, as parents and children filtered out of the auditorium, Marcus Wellington approached Emma Rodriguez with his daughter's small hand in his. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The specialists, the therapists, the evaluations, nothing worked. But somehow you did." Emma Rodriguez knelt down to little Emma Wellington's level. "I didn't do anything special," she said gently. "I just waited until she was ready. Sometimes that's all any of us need. Someone who believes we'll find our voice when the time is right." Little Emma Wellington looked at her teacher with bright, no longer silent eyes. "Can I help you clean the classroom tomorrow?" she asked, her voice still soft but growing stronger with each word. Emma Rodriguez smiled, her heart full of the kind of joy that made every struggle of her underpaid, overworked profession worthwhile. "I would love that very much." Sometimes, she reflected as she watched the Wellington family walk out of the auditorium together. The most important breakthroughs happen not when we try to force them, but when we create safe spaces for them to unfold naturally.